Hey everybody, welcome to Psych 2111, Psychological Science 1, Statistics with me, your instructor, Ryan Go Freddy. If you think about my last name as Go and Freddy and just kind of smash those together, Dr. Go Freddy. So I'm very excited to be here because statistics is sort of near and dear to me. And before we sort of dive into why, I'd like to just take a quick second to introduce myself before we dive into that. But I am born and raised in Colorado. I love it here, although I'm not maybe a super good, what people might call a Colorado native. I'm not really a skier or a snowboarder, which I think is kind of a hilarious generalization of people that you normally find. Like a lot of people move here because they like those things, and people who are born here are like, no, I like it, but I don't do it every single weekend or anything like that. You would be more likely to find me probably in a coffee shop than on the mountaintop. But anyways, I love it here. I moved away for 5 years. To attend my PhD program in social and personality psychology at Mizzou, University of Missouri. And now I'm back, which I'm very excited about. And my focus when I was in graduate school was on motivation, which was really cool. It was not only, hey, how can we use our big, beautiful brains to get us from point A, where we are now, to point B, where we want to be, but also about what kinds of goals should you pursue in the first place? Should they be goals that are driven mostly by external factors like what other people want you to do, or reward contingencies, or maybe even motivated by some kind of guilt or shame or something like that, or goals that are motivated mostly by our value systems and things that we find interesting, challenging, and stimulating. And we might get to talk a little bit about that later on in the semester, but super fun stuff. I love psychology in its ability to be applied to the human life, to increase and enhance mental and physical well-being across the lifespan. And in order to be able to do that, in order to be able to sort of prescribe any kind of intervention or thing to help people, whether it's mindfulness interventions or positive psychology interventions for becoming a little bit happier, we have to know the scientific method and we have to know statistics in order to actually be able to say, hey, this works, treatment A works better than treatment B or works better than no treatment at all, right? So I really love the scientific method and psychology for that, but also it means that we have to know about statistics as really the backbone of science for enabling us to understand how to put some of this stuff into practice. So, quick word on the syllabus. I know you get this in every single class, and all teachers forever say, hey, you should probably check out the syllabus. Hey, you should probably check out the syllabus because it has everything in there that you're going to need to succeed in this class, right? Like every semester, one or two students, unfortunately, they don't read it, and then they always inevitably, because they aren't paying attention to the course syllabus, or I mean the course schedule, or what have you, they miss something important, whether it's exam times or something else. And then, unfortunately, it's the case that their grade suffers because of that. So please do not be one of those students. And please do at least give it a brief survey of, hey, what's expected of me in this class? What kinds of things determine how my grade looks? What kinds of assignments am I expected of? And also what you as students can expect from me as your professor. I am here to guide you along for what for some people is kind of a scary class, and I am here to be your ally and your advocate in that. So, before I jump into why stats are so powerful and cool and why this is a good thing that you're in this class, I want to ask you, are you afraid, or maybe how afraid are you of being in this class and learning statistics? For a lot of students, statistics is not something that they are necessarily super comfortable with or interested in. I was you at one point, right? Like I was a psychology student and I did not join a psychology major, as many of you, I'm sure, also did not, to do math, right? You're like, I don't want to do math. I want to help counsel people or do therapy or sports psychology or neuroscience or whatever it might be. Um, and you were maybe hoping you could squeak by without learning a few tips and tools in the math realm. But there's good news, right? It's like, yeah, you have to take this course because it's required, but also the cool thing is you are going to get, well, I guess two things, right? First of all, statistics are incredibly powerful because again, that's how science functions. Like we wouldn't actually be able to accurately prescribe any type of therapy or treatment or medication or even just, intervention, self-help books, motivational advice, whatever. We couldn't actually do that unless we understood, hey, does this actually work? Does treatment A work better than treatment B or no treatment at all? Does what I'm doing, as a teacher, is this helpful to students and is this more helpful than a different way of teaching, right? Those are things that we have been learning about over the past many, many, many decades as psychologists and researchers. So, but the only way we know that is you actually have to take people into the lab or gather data somehow and then analyze it using statistical techniques. And that's what we're going to learn in this class. The second reason why this is a really important class is for you yourself and your career aspirations or whatever you want to do as the next step after this class, because uh, it is very true that statistics are one of the most marketable skills you are going to learn at your time here in undergrad, right? You will actually be able to put on your resume that you understand how to interpret statistical output and that you can actually conduct statistical analyses yourself. Employers want to know that kind of thing, and you will have a massive leg up on competition if you're going to grad school, especially. But even if you're not going to grad school, again, if you're wanting to be a therapist or maybe sports psychologist or something else, you are going to have to understand how to interpret the statistical analyses that are a part of major research articles. And you are, if you're going to go on to, grad school and research and those kinds of things, certainly going to have to conduct your own research. But either way, it's something that employers really, really, really like to see. And so you get to actually take away a cool and useful skill from this class, which is really exciting. Okay. Now, again, many of you are maybe a little hesitant though, because hey, this is math and it's challenging, and statistics is certainly can be not maybe super intuitive for everybody, right? But I have a weird question for you. Do you think that you are smart? Now, that's a really odd question. Why did I ask that, right? Well, it turns out how you think about yourself and the qualities that you have, and maybe personality traits that you have, really matters for your success. So, this is Carol Dweck. She's a very famous psychologist. She wrote a book called Mindset. And in her work, she describes basically kind of two overarching general ways of thinking about certain qualities of life and of other people. And those are called mindsets. Okay. So there's a fixed mindset and then there's a growth mindset. People who have fixed mindsets think that personal qualities like intelligence are fixed. They can't be changed, right? So for instance, if you say, "Hey, I'm smart. I've always been smart. I always will be smart," or you say, "I'm not very smart, and I never was, and I never will be." Those are both fixed mindsets, right? As opposed to a growth mindset, which would say something like, well, I might not be very good at this thing right now, but I can get better at it if I put in some effort. Okay. And that's really where we want to be. And not only is it like that a mindset would be, well, that would be kind of nice to have a growth mindset. It's like actually, the research suggests that having a growth mindset actually does increase your ability to learn and to take in new things and to grow. Okay, so there was this cool study that Dweck and her colleagues did back in 2007 that took two groups of seventh graders and basically put them through this couple of week intervention. Some students learned that their mathematical skills could actually grow if they worked on it, and they were they were instructed basically in how to gain a growth mindset versus the other group of students which had more of a fixed mindset. And then at the end of, this training period, they looked at their mathematics scores. And it turned out that those in the growth manipulation in the condition actually performed better. But how would I know that? How would we know that? Like you can look at, hey, little Timmy's scores look maybe a little bit higher than, whatever Sarah's scores or something like that. But how would I know that on the whole, this whole growth mindset thing is actually a good idea or improved grade scores on average? Well, you have to conduct statistical analyses, right? And so that's exactly what they did. And I know I just popped this output on the bottom, and you're probably thinking, "What is this? We got letters and numbers. Am I gonna have to retake algebra, figure this out?" No, this is really, 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 fundamental stuff that you're going to learn throughout this course. You're going to be able to interpret what this little output, this little tidbit that I put on the bottom is. But ultimately, what it means is it's showing us that in fact, the two groups, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset groups of seventh graders, did score significantly differently on these exams. Okay, cool. What's next? This is another little thing to maybe think about, okay? When you're thinking about how to approach this course and you're thinking, hey, it's a little scary, right? Like I'm a little afraid of this. Well, there's also some psychological literature out there, like this study that was done back in 2017, where they took a bunch of high school students and they asked them in another math class, hey, how do you feel about the fear that comes up when you think about undertaking this math class? And a lot of the students said, well, it feels like a challenge. It feels like a challenge to be overcome, a challenge that is something that I can work towards and ultimately kind of overcome at the end of the day. Versus other students, they saw it as a threat, as I don't have the capabilities and I won't develop the competencies in order to overcome this looming danger to my grade, which is learning and doing math, right? Well, those are also kind of appraisals or mindsets of when you think about what you fear. It turns out that the students that had more of this kind of challenge mindset, this appraisal that, hey, like math is challenging, but it is something that I think I can work up towards. It's something that I can get better at. Um, they actually showed or illustrated more engagement in the class. Okay, so you can see this little challenge box has an arrow that says a plus towards the circle of engagement. So they had more engagement with the class. They spent more time on the material and they paid more attention in class. The high schoolers who had told the researchers, I see this as a significant threat, and I'm just not sure if I have the competencies or if I'm going to be able to develop those competencies in math. They showed less engagement, right? They're not as interested in the material. They're not doing their homeworks as much. They're not paying attention in class. They exhibit less engagement in the class. Well, of course, the students who have more engagement in the class tended to go do better on exams. So that's the piece to the right. And so it makes sense, excuse me, that if you have a challenge mindset, you're going to want to work on this a little bit better. Hey, this is something I can do, I can overcome, and I'm going to engage a little bit more in this. And then as a result of that, you're going to do better on it. Okay, so think of this class as maybe a challenge to be overcome and not a threat that's going to ultimately like take you out or something. Okay. Again, more statistics that show that this is the case, and we'll talk more about that stuff across this entire semester. So, to wrap up, I want to know, okay, what can you do well? And I bet you there's something that you do really well right now, whether it's a foreign, speaking other multiple languages, or even if it's just, blowing the biggest bubblegum bubble that's ever been blown or something like that. What can you do well? And I bet you weren't always that good at it, right? You had to learn and you had to anything from tying your shoes to riding a bike, right? to eventually, who knows, if you become an excellent researcher, you could win the Nobel Prize, or you could invent some kind of therapy that really helps out a lot of people. Okay. So I want to know, and one of your assignments this week is giving a video, less than 5 minutes, of some talent that you have, okay? And you're going to show it to your peers, all right? And it's going to be whatever you think you're good at. You're going to show off those talents. And at the end of the video that you're going to make, you're going to say, if I can do this, I can learn statistics, okay? Because the truth is you can, and I'm here to help you along the journey. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.